This is a production of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and Civic Center TV.
Good morning and welcome on this beautiful, beautiful day. I think it was made just for this group and our lovely setting here in our Lakeview area at Orchard Lake Church. I am Linda Cochran. I'm the interim associate pastor here at Orchard Lake, and we extend our warmest welcome to you all and are so very glad that you're here. We are pleased to be hosting this celebration since the history of our church is tightly tied to the history of Apple Island. I can remember as a child where I grew up in Southern Ohio and spending time with my father out in nature on our farm. We would take night hikes and the moon would be out. Or we might go, not in the evening, but during the day, we might go canoeing on the Little Miami River that is in Southern Ohio. And my father, in his very calm and just comfortable demeanor, would instill in his children that perhaps we just needed some quiet time, even though we were rambunctious children walking in the woods at night, or a quiet canoe ride down the river. And when we would do that, he would encourage us to imagine those that went before us, walking or canoeing on those waters or walking in that woods, and who they were and how they came to pass on things to us as well. And he would ask us, just in his presence of being a wonderful dad, to be present in the moment and to have a quiet time where we could think about all that was given to us by others and the history. So we gather here today, and I share that story because I'm hoping that it is relevant to you all and how you have experienced Apple Island. And we gather here today to acknowledge the contribution of historians and archaeologists, volunteers, and other friends of Apple Island, those that have spent time there in years past, those that settled there, those that grew crops there. We take a moment to be present and think about all of those things, all of those good things, all of the history and memories that have been put into bringing us to this day. So let's take a moment to be present, give thanks to our Creator for the beauty of the natural surroundings here at Apple Island. Let's just take a quiet moment. Thank you, friends, again for being here, and enjoy the rest of the morning.
Hello, everyone, again. It's wonderful to see all of you here this morning. We welcome you to the Apple Island National Register of Historic Places, June 7th, 2019, here at the Orchard Lake Community Church Presbyterian Church celebration. This is a historic milestone for the community, West Bloomfield School District, and Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. We are fortunate to have, as a community, to have an interesting history to share with the public, which develops from geographic features. You may know our geography includes over 28 lakes. You may not know it's a geological rarity to have an island the size of Orchard Lake with an island as large as Apple Island, 35 acres. And lastly, Orchard Lake is near the headwaters of 3 watersheds, the Clinton, the Huron, and the River Rouge. Archeologists find evidence that long ago, Apple Island was an easy, well-known meeting location and has always been a place to enjoy recreation. We are so pleased that these findings are valued nationally. And Apple Island is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Yay. Didn't know we'd ever make it to this day. I'd like to recognize the guests who connect with us in unique ways. Please hold your applause until all have been recognized in each group. Would our civic leaders please rise as they hear their office title? Our municipal leaders, our county leaders, all right, and our state leader representative, and our national leader representative. Let's show our appreciation for their support. U.S. Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence sent a representative who has a presentation. Will he please come forward?
Give it up for President Gregory. It is an honor to be with you this morning on this divinely ordered, beautiful day. It was really an honor to travel. I live in Pontiac. I'm your neighbor just to the east, and as an active member of the Oakland County Pioneer and Historical Society in Pontiac, it's an honor because obviously the Apple Island significance for our greater communities. So I am here as a member of our Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence's staff. My name's Mike McGinnis. And we wanted to make sure that we celebrated this because obviously it's a national designation through the United States Department of Interior, and it's no small feat, and it's no quick act. And we just wanted to acknowledge the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society for their leadership and their legwork to make this rightfully deserved designation happen for our surrounding communities and for Apple Island's history. So we have a beautiful congressional proclamation, one copy for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, and then one copy for the personal archives and collections of President Gregory as well. Congratulations on your federal designation. Sure. He knows what he's doing. Round of applause for Mr. Bill.
I'd also like to and I'd like to recognize our state representative here today. And can you remind me your name again? Oh, we have two.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is State Senator Jim Runstead, and we have State Representative Brenda Carter. And we have a proclamation that I will read to you. It's signed by both of us and also Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And I will be presenting this right after I read it. It is on behalf of the state of Michigan, special tribute, Apple Island Historic Archaeological Site, National Register of Historic Places. Let it be known that we celebrate the recognition of Apple Island Historical Archaeological Site upon the occasion of its listing with the National Register of Historic Places. The Greater West Bloomfield Historic Society, the West Bloomfield School District work together to preserve Apple Island's historic, rich heritage and share it with the residents of Orchard Lake and the West Bloomfield Township and visitors to the community. Apple Island is a 35-acre island, an educational nature center located in Orchard Lake. The island was formed during the last ice age over 10,000 years ago and is considered an archaeological rarity for its size and location. Apple Island is a home to over 400 species of flora, including many rare varieties in Oakland County. It has served as a focal point for cultural exchange throughout its history. Excavations have uncovered trade goods, animal bones, and other historic items from Native Americans and European settlers who once lived on the island. Second grade students are given a first-hand lesson on the island as part of their educational curriculum, and the Historic Society offers tours of the island with commentary and presentations. The National Park Service approved Apple Island for a historic place for archaeological significance August 2018. The National Historic Register of Historic Places and is an official list of our country's historic sites, structures, and objects worthy of preservation. This listing will serve Apple Island by allowing it to qualify for federal assistance for historic preservation and further promote the heritage the island is known for. So in special tribute, we congratulate the West Bloomfield Historic Society and the West Bloomfield School District for their integral role in securing Apple Island's placement on the National Historic Register of Deeds. We applaud these organizations for all they have accomplished together and wish them continued success. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. Center there. Go a little bit this way because that podium's blocking that camera.
Should I go over there again?
No, right in the middle is fine. Get in there close.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, here we go. And I'll send a copy to each your office.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Somebody dropped a paper. I'm not sure whose one.
Oh, that's me. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. You're going to need another shelf and another wall.
Yeah.
That's great.
Next, I'd like to recognize our archaeologists and state group historical leaders, if there are any, or local leaders. Would they please stand up? Richard Stamps, please stand up. Debbie Binder from West Bloomfield Township, thank you. Thank you for your support. From 1827 through 1970, Apple Island was a privately owned island by a series of owners: James Galway, William Dow, John Coates, Colin Campbell, and Willis Ward. Will the descendants of these families please rise so we can recognize them? Katie's in the back, and there are more. There are 8 of them. That's terrific. Apple Island is appreciated by the community. This is illustrated by the fact that 19,000 people have toured the island with the Historical Society over 45 years. Archeologists have been interested in the island's history. Archeologist Charles Martinez highlighted Apple Island in his book, Song of the Heron, Reflections of the History of West Bloomfield. Mike Stafford conducted island archaeology field research in 2000 and 2003, and we're appreciative of their original work. Let's clap for them even though they can't make it today. I thought you might be interested to know the history of this project. It began over 10 years ago by Joe Hoffman, then West Bloomfield School District Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Buzz Brown, then President of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society, and Dr. David Brose, then the Director of Cranbrook Institute of Sciences, with the vision that Apple Island might be listed on the National Register. To move this project forward, licensed surveyor Bob Burkett volunteered and surveyed the island. Later, David Brose, archaeologist, approached Dr. Luann Wurst, then at Western Michigan University, to conduct an Apple Island archaeological field course and see what might be possible. In 2013, I stood right here, and when we celebrated the work of the Western Michigan University field course with David, Luann, and Mark Hook, PhD candidate. Those efforts revealed that the application for listing in the National Register was possible and might be successful. At that time, I well understood the logistics, the unique logistics of working on an island, and recognized all those who made it possible. The list was long, and those project supporters are listed in your program. Without each of them, we would not be here. Would all the project supporters from the 2013 and 14 project rise so we can thank them for their support? Board members, boat drivers, my husband, thank you. School board members, school board, Historical Society board members, Bill, Hannah. There's a lot. You can look at the program. There's a lot. Finally, the Historical Society wishes to recognize 2 people, Dr. Brose and Dr. Wurst, by presenting them with the Society's highest honor, the Distinguished Service Award, and with a certificate. And then their names are added to our DSA plaque, right there, and a lifetime membership to the Society. Would they both come forward to receive their awards? David, your certificate reads, Distinguished Service Award, presented to David Brose, PhD, in appreciation of your 2008 and 2013 Apple Island anthropology fieldwork, analysis, evaluation, along with a vision to consider Apple Island in the listing in the National Register of Historic Places.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll shake your hand.
Yeah, I'll shake yours.
And we'll take a photo right here.
Podium's sort of in the way.
And we'll step over right here for that little photo op.
Okay, do you mind turning the plaque this way? That's good.
How about that?
We'll figure it out. Okay, here we go. Look up. Okay.
No, we'll do it. I'm going to give a little commercial here. One of the things he's holding is an Orchard Lake tile. We had these made last year. They're an accurate map of Orchard Lake in a tile, and we have them for sale as well. Yeah. Luann, your certificate reads Distinguished Service Award, presented to Luann Worse, PhD, in appreciation of your 2013 and 2014 Western Michigan University Anthropology Field Course Investigation and Application Authorship, resulting in Apple Island 2018 listing in the National Register of Historic Places. Can I have you just hold this a minute? And we'll have Luann.
Good thing I took square dance lessons. If there was a vision and if there was somebody who worked for years and years to implement that vision, it's Gina Gregory.
Thank you. And now we're going to have a few words from Christy Foran on island topography.
Thank you, Gina. Don't worry, I won't read all the tabs. Little about island topography. As the normal elevation of Orchard Lake is 929 feet, the 930-foot elevation line generally outlines the boundaries of the island. Except for the eastern portion, which is low, most of the remaining land of the island consists of higher ground, defined by the 940-foot elevation line. Steep bankings, often 5 to 10 feet in height, encircle the portion of...
Before it was your science curriculum, this beautiful island was a place well known to my native brothers and sisters. Please, let me tell the story. I don't need a mic. The Big Lake is located near the headwaters of the Huron, Clinton, and Rouge Rivers, so it made a logical place for my native brothers and sisters to travel, trade, and for their gatherings. The island, the place that you call Apple Island, made a remarkable landmark, being an unusually large island for lakes in this area. Certainly my brothers and sisters spent time in the woods and on the shore of the island. They left behind chert, stone tools, shards of pottery, trade items, and yes, even their bones. Your scientists have gathered, cataloged, and studied these artifacts. When the artifacts are considered alongside the general knowledge of the habits of native peoples in the area, one can conclude that my brothers and sisters' presence on the island goes back 500 years. Along the way, white men adopted the name Minasagorning as the native name for the island. It is said this translates to Apple Island, although there is no direct translation to a native tongue. Why Apple Island? No one knows for sure. However, survey records from the early 1800s indicate the presence of apple trees on the mainland and on the island. In those days, apples might be what you call crab apples, or my people called haws, as they were known to my brothers and sisters. But they were certainly not like the shiny, artificial-looking specimens in your grocery stores.
Though my brothers and sisters lived on this land, westward expansion by the new United States government changed things forever. The Treaty of Detroit in 1807 transferred a large portion of southern Michigan, including Apple Island, from the Odawa, Ojibwa, Wendat Huron, and Potawatomi. Those peoples transferred those people's lands to the U.S. government. I'll say their names as you might know them. Ottawa, Ojibwe Chippewa, Wyandot Huron, and Potawatomi. Aho.
And that's where we Scotsmen enter the story. Greetings, good people. I am Colin Campbell, and this is my lovely wife, Caroline Lynn Campbell. We emigrated here from Scotland to the new state of Michigan and to the city of Detroit in 1842. When we arrived, I established a business, a dry goods store in Detroit at the foot of Woodward Road and Jefferson. And I believe today there is a statue of a very large seated man there to this day.
My dear husband, Colin, was a generous businessman, a man of integrity, kind of heart, strong-minded, and friend to the lowly. His work in Detroit was honest, but draining.
Thank you. By the time we settled in Detroit, the land around Orchard Lake had already attracted many other Scottish families. In fact, on the way here today, I noticed just down the road there's still a school named Scotch School. While visiting friends in this area, we were first introduced to Apple Island, and we were smitten right away. And we talked with our friend John Coates, and in 1856 we were able to convince him to sell us the island for the princely sum of $3,050. We were actually the fourth owners of the island, white owners, though I humbly suggest that the Campbell clan enjoyed the island more than anyone else before or since.
Oh, what a joy the island was to our family. For nearly 60 years, we spent summers living on the island. Father Campbell worked hard in the city, but the soot, the noise, the stench made it difficult to appreciate God's beautiful creation. On the island, we reconnected with the soil, with the air, with life itself. We could arrive by wagon from Detroit in about 5 hours, and the interurban train took just an hour. A loud shout, "Hello!" from the bluff on the mainland would usually be enough to catch the attention of someone on the island who would row out and pick up our visitor. Our house, set on the highest point on the island, never had electricity or indoor plumbing, but that suited us fine. Before long, our group of islanders included relatives and close friends who had their own cottages and bathhouses scattered around the island. My favorite island activities were tending to our gardens and to the grape arbor, or sitting in the big rocking chair with my knitting. Of course, I led daily morning worship in our parlor for all the islanders.
Oh yes, Mother would play the hymns beautifully on our square piano with no sheet music required, of course. Her devotion to Christian worship inspired her to champion the construction of a permanent chapel here on the mainland. Our friend Peter Dow donated an acre of lake frontage for the chapel, and then our friends from Orchard Lake and Detroit helped contributed money and items to furnish and outfit the little chapel here on the shores of Orchard Lake.
How fortunate that our son-in-law, Henry T. Brush, was a well-respected architect. You might be familiar with the Detroit Public Library branch that he designed. So I asked him to design our little chapel. We laid the cornerstone of the chapel in 1871, though the economic depression delayed completion until 1874. Father Campbell and I are so pleased to see our little chapel still in use today, just down the hall here.
Mother,
If you'd like...
I know you love your chapel,
These kind folks are here to learn about Apple Island. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Forrest Campbell.
How do you do?
There was no better place on earth than Apple Island. My best days were spent in the joys of the woods and the water. During the golden age of the island, there were 8 or 9 families there. Adults, children, caretakers, and maids. Long summer days started with a big breakfast and morning prayer. We might then swim, fish, or sail. The youngest would forage for sweets, wild strawberries, or be put to task pulling weeds from the vegetable garden. Some days we would row to shore, stash our boats in the reeds, and head into Pontiac or the local farms for supplies of produce. If we were lucky, we might get to make ice cream, though that entailed hauling a block of ice out of the sawdust in the ice house. For me, I was happiest on a sailboat, navigating around the island. I was an amateur, but had many pleasurable days on the Shalila, the Tantalizer, and my biggest boat, the Keewatin. If the wind was right, we would settle for a moonlit sail. Local urchin, Willis Ward from the Big Ward Farm on the mainland, became my friend and sailing mate. As more pleasure sailors came to the area, competition grew to show each captain's skill with his boat. We all longed to win the coveted Loving Cup for a first place finish. I love sailing around the island so much, some say I established the first competitive sailing club on the Orchard Lake. I had a job too, of course. I worked in Father's dry goods business in Detroit. Unfortunately, when the big department stores came to town, shopping habits changed. Dry goods stores fell out of fashion, so I became a wholesaler instead of a merchant. Over time, Father passed away, and then Mother. By 1915, it was getting hard physically and financially for my sisters, and I to care for the island. Many of the original islanders had moved away or passed away. Luckily, my old friend Willis Ward bought the island from our family. And owing to our long friendship, Will allowed my sisters and I to vacation on the island for as long as we wanted. Will lived in a big house and a big farm on the mainland, but he built a home on the island nonetheless. In fact, he added a generator. So Will's house was the only building on the island to ever have electricity. I don't think Will and his family used the island as much as the Campbell clan, being that they lived just across the lake. But I do know he had a deep love of nature that he passed along to his children.
Yes, indeed he did, Forrest. Good morning, everyone. I am Marjorie Ward Strong. I am the daughter of Willis Ward, who bought Apple Island in 1915 when I was 23. My brother Harold and I spent our youth on the shores of Orchard Lake, living an idyllic, elegant life. This life was afforded by our family's success in the lumber business. At one time, my family not only owned Apple Island, but owned hundreds of acres around Orchard Lake. Some of the acres we farmed. In fact, my father, Willis Ward, raised his famous Alberta peaches. These peaches were so delicious that he gave them as prizes for the sailboat races that we had on the lake. My father had a vision of thoughtful community development with large estate lots, miles of horse riding trails, a plan that encouraged respect for the natural beauty of the area that he christened West Bloomfield Lakes. My father donated land for the development of Orchard Lake Country Club. And in 1921, he deeded Apple Island to me. I took it as my obligation to ensure the island's natural beauty was appreciated and preserved. My goodness, where are my manners? My husband since 19...
Thank you, my dear.
I am General Frederick S. Strong, Jr. My father was commandant at the Michigan Military Academy on the eastern shore of Orchard Lake. I believe you call that St. Mary's Prep School today. I spent my youth around Orchard Lake, where I met the Ward family. In fact, Marjorie and I were childhood sweethearts. After I completed my education at West Point, we were married. By the time my father-in-law took ownership of the island, we had 2 little babies. I was traveling the country working on various construction projects for the Army, so you might say we didn't spend as much time on the island as vacationers of days past. But we did build our home near the lake with a commanding view of the island.
And Fritz, I believe we can still see my father's boathouse way across the lake. 3 stories tall, white, yes, there it is. But in time, we began to consider ways to ensure the preservation of Apple Island.
Sadly, Marjorie passed away in early 1970, before we had finalized any long-term plans. But knowing her desire, her brother Harold and I agreed to donate the island to the West Bloomfield School District. What better steward of this precious gem than our local educational system? So on October 11, 1970, representatives from the school district, local dignitaries, the high school marching band, and even Governor William Milliken gathered on the shore of the lake to dedicate the Marjorie Strong Ward Woodland Sanctuary. The plaque reads in memory of Marjorie Ward Strong, its principal owner and faithful conservator for a half-century, whose last request was that it be preserved in its natural state as a permanent woodland sanctuary, that the children of this favored land of lakes and forests may, as young students, learn to cherish, understand, and guard the priceless gifts of nature.
And to that end, each year, second graders from the West Bloomfield Elementary Schools tour the island with the assistance of docents from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. The docents review the natural history and human history of the island and describe the remaining evidence of vacationers from long ago. This year, island visitors will be able to see 5 young apple trees planted by the second graders from Gretchko Elementary in 2018. These trees mark the return of the apple to Mina Sigourney, and if Mother Nature sees fit, they will be there to welcome future visitors for years to come. I'd like to invite Dr. Gerald Hill, Superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District, who today is known as General Frederick Strong, Jr., to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Today does mark another milestone in the history of Apple Island with the unveiling of the permanent National Register of Historic Places monument. Dr. Wurst, would you please come up front and join me? Let's give her a round of applause. Dr. Wurst, on behalf of the West Bloomfield School District, I would like to thank you for your dedication through the lengthy National Register of Historic Places monument application process. By your efforts and those who assisted you, the whole country can know that Apple Island is truly a very special place. Thank you.
There it is. Is this it? This is an image of what's on the island.
Okay.
Ready? white has enough sweat on it.
Yeah. Very nice.
At this time, I also have a smaller version to give to the superintendent of West Bloomfield Schools for his office. And I have another copy for the Orchard Lake Mayor's office. Bruce McIntyre.
Look this way. Okay? Thank you. Good.
I'd also like to recognize that Marie Manoogian, State Representative, is here. Let's give her a round of applause. Oh, and she has a certificate.
So I'm State Representative Marjorie Manoogian. I represent part of West Bloomfield. And Senator Runstead and I, as well as Representative Ryan Berman and Representative Brenda Carter, wanted to present a special tribute to the West Bloomfield Historical Society on behalf of all of us at the state legislature for this awesome historic accomplishment. So I can read the tribute if you would like. Let it be known that Apple Island has been added to the National Register of Historic Places, an honor befitting an island of such historic importance. The island is approximated to be 10,000 to 12,000 years old, and it may have been discovered by humans nearly 2,000 years ago, as it provided security and resources to the native people of the area. It is exceptionally rare for inland bodies the size of Orchard Lake to have islands, making Apple Island a geographic rarity. In more recent years, the island has become noted for its archaeological findings. Tools dating to the 1700s have been found on the island, providing us a window into the past and history of this place. In 1970, the island hosted Governor William Milliken as Apple Island was presented to the West Bloomfield School District. This year, we have another historic occasion as Apple Island is added to the National Register of Historic Places in recognition of its archaeological importance. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to Apple Island for its addition to the National Register of Historic Places.
Come forward a little bit. Okay, that's good. There we go. Close up. Okay. Thank you. Of course.
All right. In closing, by understanding our past, sharing information, activities, and stories, we build connections with the next generation, enriching all of our lives. We are thrilled to receive this National Register recognition through the Department of the Interior. Can I back up? We are excited the Society recently received community recognition by the presentation of the Dr. Seymour Gretschko Youth Advocate Award at the recent Michigan Week Community Awards breakfast. The award remarks included appreciation of the Society's programs as 10,000 students have visited the island or the museum, 20 historical panels were created for the community, or we supported the efforts, and 36,000 people have attended our events over the last 45 years. I could go on with more about our open houses, presentations, but we'll keep moving. Lastly, I'm hopeful that people of the community recognize in the importance of our local history and support the Society with your memberships, sponsorships, donations, and planned giving. Brochures on each of these opportunities are available at the green table by the elevator. This volunteer group needs additional funding to remain vital and sustainable. We offer unique Apple Island and West Bloomfield merchandise for your purchase today over there. Join us as we enrich lives, fulfilling our mission to collect, research, and stimulate interest in our unique local history. As we adjourn, let's have groups listed in the program gather here for photographs, beginning with our civic leaders. Thank you for coming. We've enjoyed celebrating with you.